In the 1980s, Harley Davidson was in the process of turning their fortunes around as the EVO motor and softail platform had improved the looks and reliability of the brand's motorcycles. At that time, Willie G. Davidson, who had recently purchased the company from AMF and who was the chief designer, came up with the idea for a tough and chunky-looking softail for the 90s. The concept bike first appeared in 1988, and its industrial and substantial look was a hit straight off. By 1990, the bike was in production and enjoying success, and might have ended up just another limited-run Harley-Davidson model lost among the other softails and FXRs of the time. However, this fat boy had a date with destiny and would become one of the most important models in Harley-Davidson's history when a certain Austrian bodybuilder rode it in a sequel to a moderately successful 1984 action movie. Part 2 of the story turned into a mega hit and is the best movie in the franchise, and the sight of Arnold Schwarzenegger astride a stolen fat boy jumping and racing a tractor-trailer caused the sensation. It was a brilliant piece of product placement, and many credit that movie and the fat boy with kicking off Harley's amazing 17-year run of wild success that lasted until the great financial crisis of 2008. The Fat Boy survives until today in its much updated form, and I got a chance to ride the latest version, which sports a larger and more powerful motor, as well as rider modes and the latest safety electronics. How does this bike ride and how does it compare to the Bagger platform? Stay tuned. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and sharing it with friends. First of all, let's all admit it. The big attraction of the Fat Boy are its looks. This bike makes you feel special. The proportions are awesome. I especially like the 18-inch wheels. The lines are beautiful with the tank and frame flowing seamlessly into each other. The fit and finish is impeccable, and the chromed out look fits the Fat Boy perfectly. This motorcycle looks chunky, from the front covers to the headlight nacelle to the fat rear tire. Its stance is low slung and makes an impression. Even the metal logo on the side of the tank is a step above what is on the other softails. So the new Fat Boy has a few upgrades from the 2024 model. They are the 117 cubic inch or 1923cc engine versus the previous model's 114 cubic inch. Rider modes, a surprisingly modern suite of safety electronics including lean-sensitive ABS and traction control, and even a slipper clutch. Let's start with the new engine because this is actually my favorite Harley motor right now. All softails are bumped up to 117 cubic inches, but there are 3 different versions of this motor. The lowriders get the high output 117, which has a hot cam. The Fat Boy and Breakout get the mid version 117, which is the same motor as in the Street and Road Glide, and the Heritage Classic and Fat Bob get a slightly less punchy 117. In the Fat Boy, this touring motor produces 104 horsepower and a very healthy 126 pound-feet of torque. And what's special about this version is that it retains the mellow vibe of a traditional Harley Big Twin while delivering big torque with strong performance. Yes, you can put in a hot cam and get more power out of the top of the rev range, but then you're sacrificing that mellow feel that big Harleys are known for. Performance is strong, with the bike surfing a big wave of torque and feeling like an unstoppable locomotive rather than a high-revving sporty bike, but that is the attraction of the Harley Big Twin. Acceleration is good but not great. The Fat Boy is a heavy bike weighing 694 pounds wet, and those big mag wheels add rotating mass, affecting acceleration more than an equal amount of weight attached to the frame. It's definitely not slow, but the lowriders feel clearly faster, even with last year's motors. Of course, the engine sounds great, even if it's a little on the quiet side with the stock exhaust. There are endless aftermarket pipes available, including Harley's own Screaming Eagle kits from stages 1 to 4. For me, the stage 1 is the way to go as it adds a bit of power and sound while still maintaining that relaxed Harley feel. The 6th gear is tall, and while twist and go passes on a 2-lane are a cinch, for a serious multi-car pass you're better off shifting down to 5th. The tank holds 5 gallons or 19 liters, which gets you about 250 miles or 400 kilometers of mixed riding. Not bad mileage for such a big bike. Realistically, you should probably be looking for gas after 220 miles or 350 kilometers. Handling is decent for what the bike is, but is limited by its cruiser design. The low saddle, it is listed as being 25.9 inches laden with a 180-pound rider, means that the bike has limited lean angle, 25.6 degrees on both sides. This is exacerbated by the floorboards, which hit the pavement early and often in turns. I scraped down the feelers on both sides and backed off when I felt them touch down, as they are a warning that the next thing to touch down might not give way the way the floorboards do and might lever the rear wheel off the ground, resulting in a low side. All this means that the Fat Boy's cornering speed is limited by lean angle. Having said that, I could still hustle this beast of a motorcycle around the corners at a good clip, just not the speed one might reach on a sporty naked. Throwing this thing around the corners requires a fair bit of muscle, as the heavy wheels do make it want to stay upright. I got used to the effort quickly, but it is not a lowrider S. Generally, I found the Fat Boy a bit heavier handling than a street or road glide, despite the fact that it weighs less. I'll chalk that up to the heavy wheels. The other limiting factor in terms of the Fat Boy's handling is the basic suspension, which is fine when cruising, but quickly overwhelmed on the bumpier roads. The fork looks like it's an upside down unit, but that's just a styling exercise. It's a standard non-adjustable fork with the top covered to make it look fatter. It has 5.1 inches of travel and performs well enough. I can't say the same thing about the 3.4-inch travel shock though. It is adjustable for preload, and although it was set in the middle of the range, it still bottomed out several times over the sharper bumps with just me aboard. I weigh 185 pounds plus gear and a knapsack, and I know that there are a lot of bigger guys riding Fat Boys. This spring needs to be stiffened up. On smoother roads, everything was fine and the bike held steady in turns without issue. There was one super annoying tendency I encountered that I haven't found on any other Harley, and that is, whenever I hit a big bump, the cruise control turned off. This does not happen on the touring models, and I've never noticed it on any other softail, but it happened time after time on the Fat Boy. I lost count of how many times after a while, and it was super irritating. Maybe the solid wheels transfer the bumps more, or there was something wrong with the rear shock. Media testers tend to go hard on these bikes, but please let me know if this is an issue you've encountered on your Harley before. In terms of comfort, the Fat Boy is a perfect fit for me at 6 feet or 182 centimeters tall. My hands fell naturally onto the bars, and the floorboards left plenty of room for my feet to change position when the fatigue started to set in. I rode this bike for long distances, 4 hours at a time, and found the stock seat decent, although it did put me fairly forward on a motorcycle. The rider triangle will accommodate riders shorter than I am, but if you're much taller, you'll probably want a seat that is set further back. The position is definitely in the laid-back lounger territory with your feet forward, which does place the majority of the rider's weight on their butt and makes it hard to stand up out of the saddle when going over larger bumps like railroad tracks. On the other hand, when you're in the saddle, you feel like the king of all creation with the wide tank, clean low handlebar, and tank-mounted instrument panel. I love the look of the big gauges on the tank, and the display is easy and intuitive to navigate with the rider mode switchable via one button, but the drawback of this kind of setup is that the rider has to take his eyes off the road to see the gauge. It's a trade-off, the clean-looking handlebar and traditional look versus being able to quickly glance down and see your speed. It's a trade-off I'm willing to make because the first Harley I ever saw had a tank-mounted display, and this is something I'll always associate with Harleys. But riders who actually like to know what speed they're going might prefer the bar-mounted gauges on bikes like the lowriders. The enormous headlight nacelle has another advantage besides pure style, as it acts almost like a quarter fairing and does a good job of keeping the wind off the rider's chest at high speed. No, it's not a faired bike, and the wind blast at highway speeds is significant, but that comes with the territory of riding a classic-looking cruiser. And if you want better wind protection as well as other touring accessories, there are a ton of aftermarket and Harley Davidson parts available to turn your bike into a long-distance mount. It already has good range and cruise control, although the issue with the bumps has to get resolved. I'm hoping that the cruise cutting off with every medium-sized bump was just an issue with my unit. Regardless, no other company offers more accessories to turn your bike into whatever your heart desires than Harley Davidson. So this is one of those reviews that isn't about practicality or performance, and it isn't about value either, as the Fat Boy costs $22,600 US and $27,300 Canadian to start. If you want fancier colors and accessories, you'll pay more. And then there are the dealer fees and taxes. As with all Harleys, if you gotta ask, you can't afford it. But if it isn't about those things, what is it about then? Well, this more than most other Harleys is about looks, sound, style, and attitude. And this bike is packed full of those things. Don't get me wrong, it's decently quick in a straight line and can be hustled around corners at a good clip until the floorboards start scraping anyways, and it might make a decent touring bike if properly outfitted, but primarily this is a bike that gets attention. So if you don't like people looking, don't get one. It looks like a real bruiser with the perfect mix of traditional and modern touches that make it into a rolling sculpture. I think that Willie G would be well pleased if he could see what his 1980s creation has evolved to become. I like this bike because it made me feel cool and made me stop and take a good look at it every time I passed by. And if a motorcycle can make you do that, you know it's been well designed. And no, this is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Were I to be shopping for a Softail right now, I'd probably prefer to buy a Heritage Classic or Lowrider ST because those two bikes seem more suited to long distance travel. But I have to admit that if they are parked beside a Fat Boy, the Fat Boy will get most of the attention. It might be the best looking Harley in the lineup right now. What Harley is your favorite at the moment, and what do you think of the Fat Boy? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Ride safe, check out some of these other videos that may interest you, and may the spokes be with you.